I invite you to fly into hang gliding. I've been a motorcycle rider all my life, and I think at this point, I think I've plateaued in where I want to be with motorcycle riding. However, hang gliding is something that I've been doing for a little over 10 or 11 years, I'd say, and I'm still learning. I've progressed to an H4 pilot. However, I think I'm getting a lot more flying opportunities now, but I'm also becoming more choosy with those flying opportunities. But what I wanted to say about hang gliding is I'm still working on it. And it for me, I think it's a lifelong pursuit. I really love it. And the reason that I'm saying this stuff to you is because I think that with the hang gliding, I started off as not knowing anything about it. I had a little bit of general aviation experience before hang gliding, but when I started hang gliding, I was really pretty terrible at it, and but with a good instructor, I got better and I got better, and then I got more chances to fly. Then I got to aero tow. Then next steps were, just keep building airtime, and eventually I got to be where I am now, and I'm still not plateaued. I think I'm trying to get better still, and I want to get better still. So, but like when I compare it to motorcycling, I've done a fair amount of different types of motorcycling and still do, but I'm not pushing. I'm not pushing hard like I am with hang gliding. I really enjoy the hang gliding so much, and I want to be a safe pilot. I want to be a current pilot. In other words, I don't want to let a lot of time go between my flights, months. The rock band Lynyrd Skynyrd probably never thought that their songs would apply to hang gliding. Well, later on in this video, I'm going to give you 3 steps for becoming a hang glider pilot. And secondly, I'm going to talk to you about flying like a free bird. If you've ridden motorcycles, you know that sometimes you need to make the motorcycle do what you want it to do. Other times you have to listen to the feedback from the bike and the traction and everything, and have that fine touch and finesse to make the motorcycle perform the way you want it to. Well, it's really no different with hang gliding. And sometimes you need muscle to make the glider do what you want it to do. Sometimes it takes strength to make the glider turn under certain conditions. But other times you may want that fine touch. You want that finesse where you're letting the glider talk to you. You're taking the feedback that the glider offers you, and then that allows you to control the glider better by listening to the feedback that it's giving you. For example, on landing, you're feeling for the right spot to flare. And for example, another example is when you're thermaling or you're trying to feel a thermal. I have a loose touch on the control bar, and I'm just letting the glider talk to me. And then when the glider talks to me, that's when I'll decide to start making my turns to thermal up. So, there's many, many more examples, but those are just 2 that came to mind right now. So I just thought I would mention that because when you're dealing with a machine, it's a give and take situation. Sometimes you have to make it do what you want it to do. Other times it's going to advise you what it wants to have done. So, for what it's worth, that's one other little thing that I've noticed with hang gliding that I compare to motorcycles. And I they do control differently, but that is truly a similarity. And one other thing I'd mention with motorcycles is the the centrifugal forces that you feel, like the G forces that you feel. Like when you're making a turn in a hang glider, it feels very much similar to making a turn on a motorcycle. When you're turned on maybe a banked roadway, if you're road riding, or if you happen to be riding a motorcycle on a berm that's maybe a 30-degree berm or something like that, and you're coming around. It's much the same feeling when you know that the G forces are aligned and everything is in balance in that turn. You can just feel the similarity between that and motorcycling. I don't know how else to describe it. Hi, this is Aaron. Motorcycles can take you to great places, and hang gliding can also take you to great places. The thing that I love about motorcycling is it gives you the sense of freedom. Well, it's motorcycling is ground bound. It isn't nothing compared to being in the air, launching off of a mountain, soaring thousands and thousands of feet above the earth, and just checking everything out from that perspective. I've flown regular airplanes, but there's something different about hang gliding because you're out there in the wind and it's like you're part of the machine. And in an airplane, it's a lot more complexity, looking at gauges and worrying about your engine and all sorts of different things. Don't get me wrong, airplanes are great fun. I've thoroughly enjoyed that, and now I'm into hang gliding, and I think later in my life I'll probably be back into airplanes at some point or something like that, but at this point it's just so much fun to fly hang gliders because you're really part of the machine, and it's well, it's the most amazing feeling ever to launch off of a mountain and to be actually looking down on hawks. And it's so interesting because they're doing what you're doing. If you're ridge soaring and you're flying above a hawk, you look down at that hawk and the crab angle of the hawk is the same crab angle that you're trying to do with the hang glider to soar that ridge. So I just thought I would say that. And you know, the other thing that I wanted to mention just really quick here is that I think the place to start with if you have a desire to fly, especially if you're looking at this page already and you're looking at this and saying, wow, you know, how could I do this? Well, the thing is, it's entirely doable for you to do this. I wanted to work on this video just to show you, or to give you like a pathway to get there. And one of the things that I first off wanted to say was, you know, it's about a 3-step process in my mind to have this work good for you. And the first thing is, I would say sign up with the national organization, which is USHPA. And then secondly, you know, that'll give you access to information about flying clubs and also about you know, connecting with individual members in those clubs and so forth. I would highly recommend that you locate one of the flying clubs under USHPA that has a hang gliding component to it, and get involved with that, because you're going to get to know those people, and then they're going to help you along on your journey to become a pilot. And the other thing is, if you start with USHPA, get in a flying club and start lining up your training right away, that's going to do a lot for you, because you're going to have the backing of the national organization, and also the flying clubs. You're going to meet friends in there, and everybody's going to help you along on your journey. And then as you're training, well, the best thing in my opinion would be to work on your H2. That's the rating that lets you start flying the mountains, and more arrow towing and things like that. You have to solo as an H2 to be able to arrow tow or fly from the mountains. So getting to that H2 is a critical step. How you do it can be done a number of different ways, and you have to kind of decide what's right for you in terms of what's going to fit your schedule and the quickness of the program to get you to an H2. Like if you can afford to travel and work for like 2 weeks at a training facility, 2 weeks straight doing arrow towing or something like that, there's a good chance you could get your H2 from that. Or maybe, 2 long weekends or something like that. Not long weekends, but two-week periods. You might be able to get your H2 that way. I guess it's all what you put into it. But I can tell you from my own experience, you get an H1, I was going a couple times a week to an instructor whenever the weather would cooperate. Sometimes I would miss a week because the weather wouldn't work out at all. But I think I got my H1 in a period of about two months, something like that, working at it at that pace. But then when I arrow towed, I took off work for like 2 weeks and I got from an H1 to an H2 in about a 2-week period. So I thought that was really awesome to be able to get that H2. But then I had, after that, I believe I got involved with flying clubs either toward the end of my H2 or somewhere in there. I found flying clubs because once I got engaged with the flying clubs and the people in those flying clubs, they showed me more opportunities to fly. In other words, I would go out flying on good, suitable H2 days with them, and that allowed me to build my airtime towards my H3. So it's a process. I won't say it isn't a process, but it's entirely doable, and I think you can do it. So I hope to see you out there on the mountains, or arrow towing at the flight parks, or wherever I might see you. I hope we get to hang glide together. Isn't it amazing the places that motorcycles can take you? Wow. I've been all over the place on motorcycles, and you can go places that cars will never go. And with hang gliders, you can go places that cars and motorcycles will never go. Really something to also fly over top of birds. Hawks that are soaring the ridge or something like that, you're flying over them and you have the same crab angle as they do. You're both doing the same thing. You're trying to stay up there. You're soaring, and you catch a big thermal. You start turning, and you're turning in the same circle with the birds. It's interesting. I've flown with eagles, and you'll start circling, and they'll start circling. And sometimes you'll be above them for a while, but it seems like they're so much more efficient. They're so more tuned into the air than we are as humans. They'll surpass you. They'll do a couple circles and be much higher than you are. But oftentimes they don't want to go super high, so they quit. And then we catch up. We as humans catch up to the eagles and then end up flying higher than they do sometimes. I think they might be mostly hunting or whatever. They don't really care to max out their altitude like humans do. So I thought that's an interesting piece of info about this flying stuff. You can beat the eagles only when they let you. Well, I really hope you enjoyed this little production. If you skip to the end and don't get anything else out of this, and you like flying or the thought of flying, really consider getting your H2 rating, because it's going to open up so many doors for you to really awesome flying. You'll be soaring with the Eagles before you know it.